to remember the 1,800 plus Syrian victims so far of the atrocities occurring in Syria. We should also remember the tens of thousands of people who have lost their lives over the last 40 years under the brutality of the Ba'ath regime. After this moment, Nan Baraki will play the Syrian national anthem on the oud. Thank you.
Since the independence of Arab states in late 40s and 50s from imperial Western powers, they have been subjected to another form of oppression, another form of tyranny, that is the Arabic governments, the Arabic regimes that have been oppressing the people and denying them their basic rights of freedom, democracy, well-being and good living, good healthcare systems, and so on. Now, this year, a remarkable event happened when protests started in Tunisia, and then all of a sudden we saw the Arab Spring and the domino effect start, and the effects of the Tunisian revolt spreading to every other Arab country. Now, our brothers and sisters in Syria are facing massive oppression, something that maybe people, living abroad cannot really imagine it or believe that it's happening. When you see peaceful protesters going out in the streets, in all peaceful means they've got to ask for freedom, dignity, democracy, jobs, and so on, and they are faced by killings of the government. Around 1,500 civilians have died up until now, and the numbers are increasing, and around 410 military men have died because, not like what the government says, that there are some terrorist groups that are killing them and Islamists and stuff like that. That's all bullshit. What's really happening is those brave soldiers defied the government and defied orders and refused to shoot on civilians. Hence, the government would kill them and then claim it was done by some, extremist groups and so on. Now, Syria has been subjected or under emergency law for God knows how long. What, 30 years? 40 years now. 50? What? Yeah, so, 50 years. And a few weeks ago, when the protest started, Bashar came out, the Syrian president, and announced that, all right, we're going to lift the emergency law, but then immediately he enacted some anti-terrorist law or something. But although maybe on paper there is no emergency law anymore, it is still down in the streets as people are still being killed and tortured and denied their basic human rights. A very famous Tunisian poet 70 years ago, roughly, said a very famous poem. And this poem became the slogan for many protesters in the Arab world. And as if he knew what was going to happen. And in Arabic it says, إذا الشعب يوما أراد الحياة فلا بد أن يستجيب القدر. And roughly translation to English, that's mine, I don't know if it's, when people choose to live with dignity, fate will have to comply to their will, despite all the tyranny and oppression and the difficulties and obstacles out there. That's all I have to say. Thanks to Adnan and Dulama, and thanks to everyone who attended today. Thank you much. Show you what it's like to live in Syria. It happened when the Syrian authorities allowed foreign media to enter the country after the president gave his speech to the people and said, if you want freedom of speech, here you go. You can say your demands, whatever they are. One man interviewed by Al Jazeera, which is a Qatar channel, he said, the security forces stepped on my head, and he repeated it again and again. And then he said, I'm human, I'm not an animal. Well, of course, foreign media allowance only lasted 10 days, and then they cut them off. As I was watching the interview with that man, I remember when our government in Australia recently made a big deal about the treatment of cattle imported to Indonesia. They were outraged at how the cattle were being treated there and then exported to Indonesia. Our government in Australia stood up for animal rights. The Syrian man that I just mentioned was asking to be treated at least better than an animal. Look at where Australia is at and look at where Syria is at. People in Syria are constantly being degraded, put down, abused, and by who? By their own government. We appreciate that the Australian government has already done what the Australian government has already done by condemning the Syrian regime's action and imposing sanctions. But we need the Australian government to continue putting pressure on the Syrian regime to not only end their brutality and crime against their people, but also make way for democracy. The only way this will happen is if Syria gets the full attention of the world's top diplomats, politicians, and scholars. The second story I would like to share might give you a better understanding on what it's like to be Syrian. It's something that happened to me here in Australia about 1.5 months ago. The Syrian Association in Adelaide messaged me saying that they were going to hold a rally in Adelaide to support the unwavering Syrian people and the brave Syrian army. When I first read it, I thought, what do they mean by supporting the people and the army when the army is killing the people? So I called them, and I found out that they are gathering for the sake of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and to show that they support his reform steps that he's been promising for 11 years and that they love him to death and all that sort of stuff. This was probably an order they received from the Syrian embassy in Canberra. here I decided to go and show them that I'm a part of the Syrian community in Adelaide who doesn't agree on going out to worship the Syrian president, especially since he is using the Syrian army to kill the Syrian people. And there are a lot more who don't agree just like me. So I asked them not to talk on behalf of all Syrians in Adelaide. And if they want to hold the president's picture up, I want to burn it up. When I said that, one of them said to me, okay, we stand here holding it up, and you go stand there and burn it. But we will film you and send the clip there. I said, there? Where? And he said, to Syria. And he, of course, he meant to the Syrian secret intelligence. So whenever I go back to Syria, the first thing they will do is imprison me. This guy is in his 50s and has been here in Australia for at least 20 years, and he still thinks in this immoral way because he's still scared of the secret intelligence in Syria. That's what it's like to be Syrian. You are living in fear when you are not in the country. This is how strong the regime's hold is on the Syrian people. Our fear has been their biggest weapon. This is why they have been able to last for more than 4 decades. Well, the time for fear is now over. The Syrian revolution is nothing but revolution on fear that has been there for 48 years.